What is going on, guys? The Xbox 2 is now live. I'm one of your hosts, Randall Thor 19, the man with the million. This is my channel, of course. But with me today, as always, my sidekick, Jez Corden of Windows Central. What's going on, Jez?
Hi, pal. How's it going, pal? How are you
It's
going?
going
How's
all
it
right,
going?
man. It's going pretty good. I got a lot of gaming in the last couple days. Got a lot of gaming to look forward to coming up this week. We'll talk about that in a minute, but yeah, I'm excited. I played one of my all-time favorite greatest games last night for like a couple hours. Oh, gave me
Bobby!
it, not Barbie. Come on, not Barbie.
I just
Something
love you, by the
else.
way.
I want to say hi to the people in chat that are always here. Sam Tobert, Di Almighty Spartan God, who you banned once and I had to unban. Uh,
I, it,
Fuzzy
let,
Belvedere.
let's not talk about that.
Yeah. Shout out to everybody in chat already. Thanks. I know it's 3 o'clock here on Wednesday. I got class in a couple hours, but me and Jez are here to talk about video games. The good old video games, right, Jez?
Good old video games, my love for things. I'm very tired today, so be aware of slurred speech, mixed up words, and I might fall asleep in the middle of the show. So
Yeah. And like Kilo Whiskey says, make sure you hit that like button. I
hit
usually
that
save I
like.
usually save that to the end. As you guys know, end of my videos, end of my
We need to
podcast. So
get
usually
we need to get a soundboard or something
we
like
do.
the pro
We do.
podcast have.
Remember, I'm Randall Capone and you're Jez Corleone, right?
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
That is who we are. We are the Xbox Mafia. Do you remember that?
The X who yeah, I always heard about that. Like the Xbox Mafia is coming to
Might,
get you, but
that
like
might be maybe that was before you joined Twitter. I don't
maybe it
know.
was. Like who
It was
was
a
the
long thing.
Xbox Mafia? Who
I
are
don't
these
know.
people?
It was when I first joined Twitter. It was like this sort of community group, and they were trolling and stuff like that. I don't know. But it's
We are the Xbox. We're the new Xbox
we're
Mafia.
the new Mafia.
Yeah.
NU like new metal. It's no way, not like that. Shit. And never mind. Moving on.
Moving on. We have a bunch of topics here to discuss, but as always, if you want to introduce a topic, there's super chat or donations. If you want to do that, it just put something in the chat. But we're going to be covering Red Dead 2. Obviously, a bunch of info came out, and if other games should move out of its way at the end of the year, we'll also be talking about Monster Hunter beating PUBG. This is one that Jez wanted to talk about, so I'm interested in seeing what he has to say about it. And then, of course, the big topic is what Xbox needs to do, not only this year, but next year. Because honestly, there really isn't much. It was kind of a dry week for news this week. Wouldn't you say, Jez? Kind of dry.
Yeah, it's pretty dry. Pretty dry in the gaming world, anyway. I mean, what's his face? Elon Musk blasted a car into space
Dude,
yesterday,
I
which is
know.
pretty cool.
And just like everybody that was like flat Earth people are like, lies, lies.
CGI.
I know, right? It's fake. You're all just repeating what you learned in school, regurgitation.
Oh man, but seriously, a car in space.
I know.
It's such a
We
strange.
peaked as human civilization. We've literally peaked. There's a car in
Yeah,
outer space. We can't get any better than this.
I think honestly, people will look back at the post-apocalyptic world and they'll think that was when humanity peaked, when they put that roadster into space. That was it. It's all downhill from here, guys. I'm afraid.
Yeah,
That's not what
unfortunately,
they're
it's unfortunately. Um, but yeah, I mean, as we always do, we're talking about what we played, and Jazz usually goes first. But let me guess. Let me channel my psychic powers. What has Jazz played this week? Well, not Sea of Thieves because it's
No,
not open. So
sadly.
maybe World of Warcraft and possibly some PUBG. Maybe
No, I
no.
haven't played PUBG. I don't really like it that much, man.
Oh my god.
Sorry.
But
I'm
but
sorry.
you
I'm
do the
sorry,
morning
internet.
mixer with the one and only Roby One Kenobi, and he likes playing that.
But he's been playing Monster Hunter a lot this week, so
Oh, okay,
that
okay. Yeah.
instead. Yeah, I don't like PUBG that much. I'm just not patient enough for PUBG. It's a game of skill and patience. I can almost do skill, but I can't do patience. But but I haven't been playing World of Warcraft that much either, which is a testament to Monster Hunter. because Monster
Mm.
Hunter has pulled me away from World of Warcraft, my World of Warcraft addiction, which I've had since Christmas. And it's a surprise because I've never played a Monster Hunter game before. I didn't really think I'd like it that much. I just thought I'd heard that it was just grinding and grinding and grinding and stuff like that. But man, it is addictive. It is really addictive. For those that don't know, all three of you, Monster Hunter World recently came out by Capcom for Xbox, PlayStation, and PC version delayed, right?
Yeah, I think until the end of
Just
the year, or maybe yeah, summertime. I think.
Yeah, PC version is coming later, but it's available for Xbox One and PS4, Xbox One X enhanced and PS4 Pro enhanced, and it's it's just the whole game is just go explore these really overly detailed open areas, slay monsters, loot things, craft gear, and there's some sort of rudimentary story, but it's kind of fun and campy. It's not very pretentious or serious. There's giant cat people in it, and you can cook food and go fishing and stuff like that. And yeah, it's like what Carlos 977 says in the chat. It's what Scalebound could have been. And I was kind of joking on Twitter that shout out to JW in the chat too. And I was kind of joking on Twitter last week that not well the week before it came out that it should like scratch the itch for people who are looking forward to Scalebound. And I kind of feel like it kind of does that almost. But it strips out all the fluff, and I've seen a lot of pundits compare it to Destiny. I don't know if that's fair or not. Have you played Monster Hunter, Ryan?
I have not. Gopher has been playing it. Mock has been playing it. Magic's been playing it. Sam's been playing it. All my friends have been playing it. And I just have zero interest in playing Monster Hunter. And you want to know why? Because I'm hunting a different kind of monster, one called a Colossus. But I'll talk about that in a minute. Keep on going.
You can tell me. I'm interested in that game because I'd never played it, and everyone's raving about it. So I'm looking forward to hearing about that. But yeah, I mean, I didn't think I'd like Monster Hunter either, man. It didn't seem like my kind of game at all. But the gameplay loop is so tight, and it's just like you can jump on with a friend, and it feels like you get a lot done in a very short period of time because there's so many systems and layers and the stuff to different ways to progress. It kind of feels like Destiny with all the fluff and pretension stripped out, and cat people put in, and fishing mechanics, and it's a great game.
And we know
Imagine
how
if
much you
Destiny
love
was just
Destiny, right?
yeah. Well, that's the thing though. It's like in Destiny, there are cool things in Destiny. Like some of the boss fights are really cool. Now
Mhm.
imagine all the best content of Destiny, killing these huge bosses with your friends. Now imagine a whole game that's that, and you kind of get Monster Hunter, kind of.
Kind of.
So
Gopher finished the main campaign after 60 hours, and he said the end was just a pure grind fest, just like any other kind of game similar to that. So,
well, I think Monster Hunter is kind of known for that, but the thing is, it's I don't know. I don't know how many hours I've got in it now. I've got to have it like at least like 10 or something. I haven't played it that much yet, but I don't know. I'm enjoying the journey. If the ending, it doesn't seem like the story is the focus really. I've just been enjoying logging on with Roby when we do our streams in the morning. Mixer.com/Windows Central. Give us a follow. And when we do our streams in the morning, I've just been jumping on and slaying these huge monsters. Every time I've played has been a surprise, and I'm sure like when you get to the higher level and you have to grind low level monsters to get you crafting materials and stuff like that, I'm sure it does get a bit boring. But the journey I'm having right now is extremely fun, and it's way more fun than I've ever had in Destiny as a sort of online type cooperative sort of game. So yeah, I mean, so far I recommend it. And I'm going to be writing about it. We've reviewed it already. Asher stayed up for 48 hours with no sleep to review it. Crazy, crazy man, and he loved it. So I'm probably going to do my own little sort of take on it at
nice.
some point.
I mean, everybody
Yeah,
seems to like Mako was talking very highly of it. The Magic, Go, like every one of my friends like really enjoys that game. But of course, everybody's back on PUBG again. the game
Yeah.
that you can't stop playing.
I think
Um,
like for me with Monster Hunter, just as a final point, I think I'm kind of rooting for Capcom, right?
mhm.
Because that Street Fighter Five kind of didn't live up to expectations, and then they had like the whole thing where Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6 was destroying their sort of flagship franchise. And they had some success with Resident Evil 7. I think after a year it sold 5 million copies, but I think it didn't meet their projections because people had got turned off from that franchise because of how confused Resident Evil 6 was as a product, and people didn't know whether Resident Evil 7 would be any good and stuff like that. So it was kind of like a slow burn with Resident Evil 7. But I was kind of like really rooting for Capcom because there was some like I can't remember which outlet it was, but it was a prominent financial outlet or an analyst or someone who said that Capcom was in deep trouble and stuff.
Yep. Yep.
And Yukumio just said that Capcom just laid off a bunch of employees from Capcom Vancouver, the Dead Rising team, which kind of speaks to the idea that they are a company that has some troubles or something like that.
Or is it just
But,
troubles with the Vancouver office?
yeah, sure. I mean,
I
but
mean, we can talk about that in this
well, that's
episode.
another thing. Like Dead Rising 4 wasn't well received either, and neither was Dead Rising 3 that much. And it kind of feels like Monster Hunter has already sold over 5 million or shipped 5 million copies, I should say, and it feels like it's a big hit for Capcom. And I'm kind of rooting for Capcom. I want them to return to form, and I want them to be this formidable force. And it's a JRPG that has topped the Xbox store and beaten PUBG in the US. I mean, I don't know if it's because the stores are local, so let's see how it's doing in the UK. I don't think it's probably not winning in the UK. I'm gonna guess, but let's have a look. But at least sometime last week or recently, it was the number one sold game on Xbox Live, beating PUBG. So if I sort by top paid in the UK, yeah, it's beating PUBG in the UK as well. It's and surprising, Subnautica's third.
Well,
So
I think Subnautica just got an update, or at
it
least
got
on
a
PC it did.
yeah, it got Subnautica's got a lot of hype at the moment because it's doing really well on PC. The final version's out, but the Xbox version's still quite a few versions behind. But Monster Hunter World is first and fourth on the top chart for me with the two different bundles. So
Well, okay.
that's a lot of sales.
I mean, I know what you're saying. Like, hey, that's great. Like Monster Hunter. Uh, you would assume, or maybe previously, that Japanese games don't sell well on Xbox, and that's like the common like truth, right? They just don't. The Japanese user base is on PlayStation or on Nintendo, and people celebrate the fact that hey, we need more diversity on Xbox. Here's Monster Hunter World, number one selling game on the platform. I think they announced 5 million shipped the first week. I think the splits in the UK were 78-22 in favor of PlayStation, right? Um, but I'm going to throw a little devil's advocate here, and I'm actually going to take the opposite approach than you, Jez, because what was the second game? PUBG, right? Number two?
Yeah, PUBG is number two. Subnautica game preview is number three.
Right. So PUBG came out in December. This game came out last week. I would hope a brand new game like Monster Hunter could outsell PUBG that is almost 2 months old at this point.
Yeah, maybe, but it's PUBG is the one with the hype, And,
Well, yeah, but also, I mean, it does have the hype, but the sales velocity is obviously probably dwindling. They just announced a new bundle for it. But to me, it's just like it would be more impressive if Monster Hunter outsold PUBG. Like they launched the same day, and then it's like, oh, Monster Hunter did it. But like we're talking, almost 2 months later. I would hope one of the new games was number one. I don't know if like the problem is it's like yeah the listings are great, but like I don't know if they necessarily mean anything like they don't mean that much because
yeah,
you don't
maybe.
know.
I think like it would have meant more if Monster Hunter didn't take the top spot. I think it would have been like,
Nah,
this is another...
it would have been just a normal day or like I don't know, like I don't read too much into like the most played lists or you know any of that stuff because you don't know the way that it's calculated. Like
yeah,
the most
sure. It's not a scientific measurement, but it's kind of like it's more positive than negative. I think is my point here. And also when you combine that with the 5 million shipped figure, I think it bodes well. You know, I mean, considering Resident Evil 5 million after like several months, you know.
True. Yeah. I mean, obviously I want every game to do extremely well. I'm just kind of
I don't want EA games to do well.
yeah, I don't know.
I'm joking.
I mean, I want all games to do well.
Well, Madden
but
NFL 18 GOAT Super Bowl edition is 6th in the UK. I don't know why.
yeah, why is a football game that high for you? Like that doesn't make any sense. It is free in EA Access now. Could that be it? I don't know.
Oh, possibly.
And it was on sale for like $19 for the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl was just
FIFA.
And you know what?
is-
Yukumo brought up another thing. Speaking of another game doing well, Hello Neighbor. I don't know if you saw this, but they put out and said that they sold over 500,000 copies since the game came out, and that Xbox One was the leading platform, with Steam dead last. It's only sold 60,000 copies on Steam.
See, now I'm not surprised. Now that's something that I'm not surprised about, and I'll tell you why.
I'm surprised because the game is freaking terrible.
Well, that's the thing. The thing is, Microsoft was marketing that on their social media. There was Instagram. There was Instagram stories for that game. There was adverts for that game. Like they had some kind of marketing deal with Xbox for Hello Neighbor. So I am not surprised at all that it sold well on Xbox, considering it was being held up as an Xbox game pretty much. Whereas like on Steam, you kind of have to go viral. You have to cut through a lot of noise to get big on Steam.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Microsoft was marketing Hello Neighbor on all its socials, on Mixer, and
it was a console exclusive. It's not out on PlayStation. It's not out on Switch. It was only basically Xbox.
I ignored it purely because you said it was bad.
It's a terrible game. But the thing is, it's YouTuber and Twitch streaming bait. Like for whatever reason, like there are a lot of playthroughs of that game. I thought the game was absolutely horrid, and I would rather see. I'd rather see the 500,000 sales for Hello Neighbor go to Celeste, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I need to download Celeste as well.
Yeah,
I keep seeing Celeste pop up. Like it's doing pretty well. It's got quite a lot of hype, I think.
Yeah, it seems to be.
Have you seen this Routeway Empire though?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Like City Skylines, but with trains.
Does that make you interested in it?
Because
it doesn't make me interested in it.
I love these kind of games. I'm so sad. I just like the little people and like playing with toys almost. I hesitate to call Monster Hunter like okay, so let's just say Monster Hunter's success on Xbox. Do you think this will change the perceived notion among maybe Japanese developers that maybe there is an audience on the system if you actually want to put your game there, or will it just be the same old, same old? I don't know, man. It's always hard to tell, but
like, because now you're wondering, like, since there's not many Japanese games in here comes one of them and it does extremely well. Is it because it's the only one? Like, what would happen if Nier Automata came to the Xbox?
Exactly.
Or what would happen if when Code Vein comes or whatever?
I always see like indie devs say, "Oh, we sold the most on Switch. We sold the most on Switch," and it's like, yeah, because there's no games on Switch. Of course, you sold the most on Switch, but like
that argument, I don't know about that argument anymore, Jazz. There's like 300 games on the Switch now.
Dude, I own more than 300 games on Xbox.
I mean, yeah, me too. I own 1,000, but I'm just saying, like, don't be surprised if
people who have got Switch are right now super engaged with Switch. So it's a completely different paradigm. I don't think comparing the sales of an indie game on the Switch means.
I think a year from now, you'll still be seeing that for indie games. I think you'll still be saying we sold best on Switch, and you want to know why? Because it's the portability factor.
Well, that's it. Like, you can't play AAA games on the Switch.
Well, yeah, and since most indie games aren't exactly native 4K, huge AAA budgets, like you can pick it up on the Switch and play it wherever you want to go. Celeste, Matt Thorsten, the guy who created it, said it sold better on the Switch than anywhere else, but that's what they expected. I pretty much expect any indie game that is multi-platform from this point on to sell better on Switch. Like, I think that's just kind of how it's going to be.
I mean, maybe. I mean, for those smaller games, yeah, but there's very little competition from the heavy hitters. You know, it's a
Well, wait
different
and see,
paradigm.
because supposedly Call of Duty, the new Call of Duty is coming out on Switch this year. The rumor is that it's Black Ops 4 and that they're going to be porting it to the Switch. Can you imagine if Black Ops 4 sold better on Switch than PlayStation and Xbox? How
See,
much
now
of a
that won't happen. See,
Well, I
that's
know it
that's one
won't,
thing
but
that won't happen.
hypothetically, imagine if it did. Like,
It
just
won't. If it does, I'll eat my Surface.
what if it sold better than Xbox? What if the Switch? I mean, they are buying a lot of software on the Switch. I mean, look at Super Mario Odyssey, like almost 10 million units in like 4 months. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's crazy.
I would be extremely surprised if it sold better on the Switch.
I would be too, but I'm also every single indie game that comes out, you get a release that's like we sold better on Switch. What if that happens for third-party multiplats? I mean, granted, it hasn't happened, or we haven't really seen it yet because the Switch hasn't really gotten that huge support yet from third parties like EA and all the other stuff. But and the games can't run it. I mean, I don't know if a Switch can run Assassin's Creed Origins or Red Dead Redemption 2, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
I kind of want to see Sea of Thieves on the Switch.
Really?
That'd really piss some people off. But I think if
God.
Sea of Thieves with crossplay on the Switch, that'd be rad. And I know that it could probably run Sea of Thieves because Sea of Thieves can run a Potato. So
That is true.
it can run integrated graphics. You know, it can run a Surface Pro 3. So I don't know. There might be processing problems, but I don't know. Sea of Thieves could run on the Switch. I think. Now that'd be cool. I want to see that. Can you imagine the salt?
Oh, I'm imagining the tweets right now. I'm imagining the YouTube videos. I'm imagining everything that can possibly happen.
Xbox Game Pass on the Switch. First game, Sea of Thieves. I would love that. I would love that just for the salt.
I would, but I already kind of think the Game Pass is going to come to Switch at some point.
I do too. I think Game Pass is going to be on Switch. I think streaming your Xbox games to a Switch, I think that is definitely going to happen. I don't think Sony will allow it, but I think that'll happen for Switch.
I'm not even sure Microsoft would want it on PlayStation, to be honest. Like, I think they view it. I think Microsoft views Nintendo as its own separate thing, and maybe like cross. Like, you could get some Nintendo players to get there because some of the Nintendo players are interested in Xbox.
No, I do honestly think that Microsoft would put Game Pass on PlayStation. I do honestly think that.
Maybe they would. Maybe
I also agree with you that they do see Switch as a companion console and not in direct competition with Xbox.
Even though, I mean, that's what they say. Of course, they say it's a companion console, but like, you're in the same marketplace, you're competing for everybody's dollar, games, services, all that stuff. It's direct competition, despite what they want to say publicly. Like, the Switch is competing with the Xbox, and it's competing with the PlayStation, and it's competing with the PC. So they're sold at the same stores. You know, people only have so much money. Like, it's competing for your time, your money, and your attention. So, like, it's direct competition. They can say all they want because they did it last gen with the Wii and the Wii U. Oh, PS3 and the Wii U, great companion. Oh, Xbox 360 and the Wii, great companions. Like, that's how they kind of spin that. But in reality, it's really direct competition.
Yeah, especially with younger audiences, because ain't no parents gonna get their kid an Xbox and a Switch. They're gonna get them a Switch and say, right, that's it. You don't get anything else till you're old enough to buy your own. Yeah, my parents didn't buy me multiple consoles. That's why I was mostly a Sega kid.
You know, speaking of PlayStation, I want to mention the game that I've been playing that I started up last night, and I've been hunting some Colossi, Jez.
Okay, so I know nothing about this game. What do you actually do in it?
So Shadow of the Colossus, which I'll review up whenever I do finish. It's one of my favorite games of all time, right? It came out on the PS2, was the last PS2 game I ever played, and I didn't play another PlayStation game until I got my PS4 and I played Last of Us. So that's a long stretch of time. So in Shadow of the Colossus, the basic setup is your wife, girlfriend is dead. You want to get her soul back. And there's this place in this land where it's possible. Well, you ask this, like, I want to call him like a, say, just like a demon or maybe an angel, right? I want my, loved one to come back from the dead. And they're like, oh, well, you possess the ancient sword, so it's possible, but it's going to come at a price. And for us to do this, you must destroy the 11 idols. And 11 idols are represented by, or maybe they're 13 idols, I forget, by the huge colossi that roam the land, right? So essentially, the gist of the game is you get on a horse, you ride through this, well, now gorgeous looking countryside, which is kind of very empty because it's mostly an open world, not filled with a lot of stuff except from these colossi. And you can only fight one at a time. Now, what the colossi are basically puzzles upon themselves. They're just giant, huge puzzles. And some of them are absolutely massive. So not only do you got to find them, which is pretty easy, you point your sword up in the sky, it shines like a little light where you need to go. You go there, maybe you got to do some climbing tricks, climb up a wall, climb up some stuff to get into where you need to go, and then you get the introduction to the Colossus. And it could be the huge one, just kind of walks slow with the sword. It could be a flying one that flies around. You name it, right? The sense of scale, like Sam's just said in chat, is absolutely incredible. And imagine, I played this on the PS2. There was nothing like it back then. So then what you need to do is each of these classes have weak points that you need to damage. And then once you damage them all, once it runs out of health, you kill it. But each colossi is a battle upon itself and is a puzzle, because not only do you got to figure out where the weak points are, you got to actually figure out how to get on the Colossus, how to climb it. So essentially, you're just this, imagine like climbing up like Godzilla or King Kong, and you're just this tiny person. That's essentially what this is. So you figure out the weak points are, you figure out how to maybe wound the Colossus so it hits the ground, and then you can get on, grab onto its fur as it gets back up, and then you shimmy across it, find the hit points, and it tries to shake you off, and you try to stay on, and then you rinse and repeat that for all the colossi. Of course, it tells the story as it goes, and it's got some really incredible visuals, really incredible like music. I mean, it's just absolutely fantastic. As Beer said, sounds like Monster Hunter to me. Maybe it's the original Monster Hunter. I mean, this game did come out back in like 2005, I want to say, or 2004. So it's been out for some time.
Is this a true remake?
This is a true remake. So they remastered it for the PS3, which was just a simple remaster. They completely remade the game, like from the ground up. It's completely remade. Similar to like Gears of War Ultimate, how they completely remade that. So it's got, better light. I mean, it's just better everything. And then if you're playing on the Pro, it has performance mode, which you can play at 1080p 60, or cinematic mode, which is 1440p 30. And I tried both of them out.
4K.
No 4K. The game doesn't need 4K. The game's beautiful regardless. It was even beautiful on the PS2, and it was made by Bluehole. And I tried out both modes. Yes, in 1440p, the game looks gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. But I need that 60 frames, man. Like, I went back and forth, and I'm just like, I need the 60 frames.
60 frames is so overrated.
No, it's not. 60 frames is not overrated.
30 frames.
Dude, 60 frames is not. No, I'm playing the game in 1080p 60. I need the frame rate. It just smooths. Why? Because play the game, like, you can set it right then and there. You can change it from one to the other. You'll notice the difference between 30 and 60. It just is so much a better experience.
Game. I play like Rise of the Tomb Raider, right? That has 30 FPS and 60 FPS modes. Why would you sacrifice the crisp cinematic visuals for some stupid frames? I don't get it.
Because frame rate makes the experience better.
You haven't got a 4K TV, have you?
Yeah, I do.
What? I don't get it.
I would choose frame rate. I've always chosen frame rate over resolution. I don't get this. I would sacrifice 4K in stupid PUBG for 60 frames or a better frame rate
I
because
wouldn't PUBG because it's multiplayer.
it doesn't, dude. I'll set any game. Any game is better in 60
No,
frames.
no,
Period. End of
no,
story.
no,
There's no debating this with me.
no,
I'll
no.
always choose
What
frame
is
rate
the point? What is the point of having a 4K TV with all those extra millions of pixels if you're
because
not going
not
to
every
use
game is in 60 frames. A lot of developers opt for 30 and then in 4K or
them?
dynamic 4K.
Well, you're wrong, man.
Is Overwatch? You love Overwatch, right?
Yes, but it's a multiplayer game.
Yeah, and it's 60 frames. Part of the reason why it's so awesome is because it's 60 frames. If it was, why were people bitching about Destiny 2's multiplayer? Because in a sea of multiplayer games where everything is 60 frames nowadays, they opted to be 30. I'm sorry. Like, the whole debate about 30 and 60 is like a
You're
pointless
wrong.
debate because 60 is
It's okay. It's okay to be wrong.
superior in
It's okay to be
every
wrong.
way imaginable.
Developers want their pixels to be seen, right?
And you'll
can't
still see them.
You won't because
Look,
you're lowering the amount of pixels. You're lowering the quality of their art by playing it.
yeah, but performance is what matters. I'm having a bet like
single player.
no, because look, if there wasn't the choice, if I just had to play in 4K 30, I played 4K 30 or 1440p or whatever it is, right? I mean, you're going from 1440p to 1080p. It's not like you're going from 4K to 1080, right? But even when I played Gears of War 4 when it came out on the X, I thought the 1080p 60 mode was more impressive than the 4K mode.
I don't get it. I honestly don't get it. I want to be blown away by the visuals. I don't want to think, oh, that looks so smooth.
If you want to be blown away by the visuals, go play on PC.
Well, I do play on PC, but I take the resolution in a single player game any day.
I don't know.
Sometimes in a multiplayer game. Honestly, like in a game like Battlefield, it's better to have the extra pixels because you can see people further away.
I'd take the extra frame rate. If you're saying you'd rather play Battlefield 1 in 4K 30 versus like 1080p 60?
I never choose 30 frames for a multiplayer game. But if I could have 4K, it's better for games like PUBG and Battlefield because that thing in the distance, which looks like a bush, but you can't tell if it's a player or not, you'll be able to distinguish it better because it's got more pixels and it's got more fidelity.
What about Witcher 3 at 60 frames?
No, I take that. I take The Witcher 3 at 4K because it's a cinematic game. Like I'll watch a movie at 24 frames per second or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's 24. But that's just how movies are made.
Yeah. Well, it's okay. It's okay. We can agree to disagree.
I mean, granted, look, I'm just saying I'll always prefer performance in my games over resolution. I argued about that before the Xbox One X came out. I hope Microsoft.
I just appreciate the art, man. I mean, the thing is, when you playing a game, when you're playing The Witcher at 60 frames a second, you're appreciating the hardware, kind of. But when I'm playing it at 4K, I'm appreciating the effort the developers put in to texture that leaf, you know. So that's why I prefer these cinematic games 4K. But I'd prefer to have both, obviously, but I'll choose the resolution if I have to choose.
Yeah, and maybe, I mean, this is Microsoft focus tested. All these people focus tested all this stuff, which is why you have the push about 4K. So clearly people care about graphics and resolution more than they do about frame rate. I just care more about frame rate, but that's just my personal thing.
I always hear these discussions online. Most people online seem to say that resolution is better, but the data seems to say otherwise.
Well, okay, here's the great thing about this. It's an option. If you don't want it in Shadow of the Colossus, then choose cinematic mode. But it's great that for people like me, they included performance mode. So I'll choose performance. And yeah, it doesn't look as good, but I mean, honestly, like when I switch back and forth, I just couldn't deal with the lack of frames. Like 30 frames just seemed too juddery for me. Like I just 60 just gave me that smooth experience that I'm looking for. But either way, I know we got it's kind of got sidetracked into a discussion about 60 and 30 and 4K and whatnot. But
It just looks better. It's
shout
not.
out the
It's jaggies, man. It's the jaggies that piss me off more than the frames. Like if I play The Witcher 3 and I turn on performance mode, jaggies. I don't want jaggies.
yeah,
I want.
okay. I mean, there is a platform where you can get 4K and 60 at the same time.
Yeah, no. But I also don't live anywhere permanently, so I can't have a desktop.
A
My
4K
razor,
100 frames, huh?
my
How about
razor blade's
144
too
frames?
noisy. Razor blade's too damn noisy. That's why I'm getting a Surface Book too, because Razor Blade Pro is just so noisy when you play it high resolution with 60 frames. It sounds like
So
a jet engine. It sounds like SpaceX blasting off into.
So at the end of the day, Shadow of the Colossus, amazing game, still is, still holds up. I'm glad they remade it. I'm happy I'm replaying it. And you know what? I have a video plan coming out soon about why I prefer remakes and remasters over backwards compatibility. Because I've gotten this question so many times. Why are you replaying Shadow of the Colossus, but you don't like backwards compatibility? It's a simple one, which I'll talk about in the video I'm making currently. But yeah, I mean, I'd rather them remake Shadow of the Colossus and Gears of War and the Halo games rather than just saying here's backwards compatibility. Here's the game that you already played. I'm like, okay, cool. Like I already played that game. I don't want to play it again. But if you're given a new coat of paint, if maybe you bring it up to modernization standards with the controls, you're adding something new, I'll be interested in it. Like Dead Space 2, I've talked about this before, right? Dead Space 2 or Dead Space 1 rather. It's in the EA Access. They're one of my favorite franchises from last gen. I have no interest in playing them. And I know some people will say, "Oh, Ryan, it's because you have all the achievements." That's not it. Because I'm playing Shadow of the Colossus and I couldn't give a fuck about trophies. I don't care about trophies. They're like, I turn that stuff off on PlayStation, right? It's not about the achievements. But if EA would have come out and be like, listen, we remastered or remade Dead Space 1 and 2. Here's all the new features. Here's it's in 4K. Here's in 60 frames. And you can play it, all that stuff. I'm down day one, baby. I'm down day one. And that's why, I'll have a longer video basically explaining all that stuff, but that's pretty much it.
It's wrong, but that's okay.
I'm wrong? Or would we disagree on backwards compatibility and remasters and remakes too?
Nah, you're right. I my thing with backwards compatibility is I just like owning them. I just like making sure that I've still got access to them. So I get that. I tried to play. I really want to. I really want to do Mass Effect. I really want to do Mass Effect 1 on Insanity because that'd give me 100% on the Achievos. But it's so dated. I just can't bring myself to play it. Like the first time I played Mass Effect 1, it blew my mind. But now it's like, oh, really? I can't handle this. So I'm kind of hoping that if EA ever does remake any of the Mass Effects, please make it Mass Effect 1. I don't know.
Either way, I'll have a video about that because I've seen some people talking about that, and I'm very vocal about how I don't really care for back compat, but I'm happy it's there for everybody that does. So I want to more explain my thoughts. But hey, this is a podcast. We need to move on to different topics. Plus, I got school a little bit later. Okay, so Jazz. Oh, and for those of you wondering, God of War, I am about 3 hours in. It's pretty damn cool, pretty damn awesome. It is definitely dated though. I will say that. You can definitely tell it's a last gen game, and I'm kind of happy they changed format for the new game because I think it kind of wore out its welcome, at least with the current way it is. But I'll have more in-depth thoughts as I actually finish it. So I'm knocking out Shadow of the Colossus first. I'm gonna knock out God of War. I'll have videos about both. But yeah, I'm currently enjoying God of War. But man, Kratos is so angry in God of War, Jazz. Have you played any of the God of he is
I
angry
play. I
all
think
the time.
I played God of War 2. I think I played one of them. It was a long time ago, but yeah, I really like those games. And the new one might push me over to get a PS4. Maybe. You know what? My girlfriend really wants a PS4 really badly
Hmm.
because there is one exclusive on the PS4 that she really wants.
Oh yeah, which one is
Called
that?
It's called Sing, I think, or Let's Sing or something
Oh
like
my,
that.
what a casual, what a
What is it?
normie, what a
That's
normie.
she isn't. She's a massive normie. It's some singing game, but it's like it's PlayStation exclusive. So like she really badly wants it, and it looks like I might have to use that as an excuse to get one.
You
Possibly,
know,
maybe.
this is going to be a little controversial, but Kratos in God of War 3 is a little bit of a one-note character.
Really? Why?
Oh yeah, he's just like, "Roar, Zeus, I will come and get you. This is my vengeance."
But isn't it more about the combat
Well,
really
the
than the
combat's
story?
great. The combat's always been great in God of War. Like the combat's, you get the different weapons, the different types of combat. It's different things you can do. Obviously, then when you get rid of the other gods and stuff. But I mean, he's not as nuanced as he was in the previous ones. He's very angry. So like when I see the trailer for the new God of War, I'm like, okay, we moved away from God of War stuff before, which is cool because it feels very dated. And this one, and his character seems much improved because in this one, all he's doing is just yelling, and it's just like okay, like oh yeah, we're over that. And I understand now why Sony was maybe reluctant to do another one because like what do you do? Like how do you change the character? And it seems like this one was the answer to that. So I'm really interested to see like how
Oh,
they
it's like completely separate because it's
what.
Norse mythology, right?
Yeah, but this still like comes after God of War 3. There's like obviously some period of time that happens between God of War 3 and the new one. And
Oh,
since the other one dealt with like Greek mythology and this one they're going to Norse mythology for whatever reason. I think it's because his wife died and her wish was to have her ashes taken to the highest place where she was born, which happens to be North. I'm seeing it'd be cool to see how they tie that in together, like how basically
Northrend.
Kratos, who's the god of war in Greek mythology, well, at least in the games, is Ares, but how he actually ends up in Norse mythology. It'd be interesting to see how they tie all that stuff together. I mean, yeah, Abacaba says it's a reboot, and yeah, you're right. I mean, the new God of War is basically a soft reboot. Like Gears of War 4 is a soft reboot of the franchise, but
Is
it's
it?
still like it follows the timeline. It's not like it's an alternate take on God of War. It's still God of War 5 or 4. It's just
So
a
it's still
soft
him.
reboot of the series. Yeah, it's still him. He's everything he's done still happened. It's just set
Oh,
later. Um so yeah, so that's my thoughts on Shadow of the Colossus. I also played Wolverblade, which is like a hack and slash game. I have a video up on the channel for that game. Kind of
is that
cool.
any good?
Yeah, it's actually surprisingly if you like Castle Crashers or Streets of Rage, very much like that.
Co-op?
Local only, unfortunately.
Ah, so that's the worst thing about indie games. Like they have like there's some co-op indie games that are really awesome, but it's like I've got no friends in real life. So what do I do?
And you can't get your normie girlfriend to play it with you.
Yeah, I tried to get her to play Life is Strange, but I don't know. She just can't. She can't engage with games. I think.
It's
I don't
okay.
know why.
It's
She
okay.
plays Fruit Ninja though. She's a badass at Fruit Ninja.
Cypress Smurf wants to know if I'm going to E3 this year. Probably not. I don't
Ah,
think
come
so. I
on.
don't think so. I don't know. I think
No,
I'd rather stay here, make videos, do
no,
podcasts and stuff.
come to E3 and get drunk with me.
I don't drink though.
Drink fruit juice with me.
I don't. We'll see. We'll see. I know.
God,
Well, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Because that's kind of like the whole like what Xbox needs to do and the E3 stuff that
you
Jez
should come to
want to
E3.
talk about. I mean,
You
I'll
should.
think about it, Jez. I'll
Your,
think about it.
your channel deserves to have a first-hand account. Do it for your fans,
Yeah,
Ran.
but you're my first-hand account, aren't you? Or Tim Dog? He'll come on. And we'll talk about that stuff,
Oh God,
dude. It's just it's a
you could
lot.
get
It's a lot of money,
dude.
dude. It's a lot of money.
You
Like
could get a selfie stick. You could be a vlogger. You could walk around with a selfie stick.
paying,
You know,
paying whatever amount it is to go to the tickets from here to LA, finding a hotel for a couple days and all that stuff. It's expensive, man. And then buying the tickets for
I'll stay in
E3
my
itself.
hotel. You can share
I'm
my
not
hotel.
I'm not big time like you, man. I'm not big time.
You share my hotel. I'm not big time. I'm just.
You're big time. You get you get flown out there. Microsoft throws out the red carpet for you. You get all the
Microsoft doesn't fly.
Yes, they do. They fly
No,
it. They don't fly you out. Windows Central flies you out, but Microsoft gives you the red carpet. Didn't you? Someone told me. Well, wasn't somebody. Ybarra told me that last year at E3, you like knocked down a whole bunch of like Xbox like display units or whatever.
How did he know about that? Okay, so
because he's Mike Ybarra, he knows everything.
Well, I was in a room talking to the reps about the Xbox One X. There was like this is the new hardware we've got. We've got an Xbox One X here, and we've got a new Minecraft console here, and they were both on the table, standing up vertically. And I was like, "Can I have a look at them?" And they were like, "Yeah, sure, take a look." And I sort of tried to grab one of them so I could turn it around and take a photograph, but then it just sort of fell over, and then it was like dominoes. The Xbox One X knocked over the Minecraft console, and they both fell on the floor. And it was like, oh my god!
Were you embarrassed?
A little bit. Not gonna lie, but they didn't break. So I was like, oh well, that there you go. There's the drop test right there. Yeah, it was pretty bad. I'm just so fail. Xbox PR must hate me. I also turned up to Rare a day early.
A day early?
I turned up to Rare a day early and fucked up the whole schedule. And they were like, "Oh, we were expecting you tomorrow." I was like, "Oh shit!" I put the wrong date in my calendar. Like I just tapped the wrong day or something. And also, there was the time that I lost an interview with ID at Xbox as well.
What'd you do that? How'd you pull that off?
I interviewed someone at ID Xbox, and then I lost my phone with the interview on it.
Oh, that sucks.
So I wasted their time as well. I'm just really fucking crap at my job. But Xbox hasn't noticed yet, so that's the main thing.
Yeah, I think someone. Yeah, so Buddy Boy says Microsoft throws down the rose petals for Jez. You know they do. They throw it on the red carpet, throw it on the petals. Like Jez Corden's here from Windows Central. Make him comfortable. Give him what he wants.
I don't know why they do. I think it's literally just because of Mike and Aaron, maybe. And Xbox PR is like, what? Why are we helping this guy? So I got them to thank, really.
Yeah.
Jez, what did Rare tell you about Sea of Thieves? You'll find out next week on February 13th.
6 days. Jez, is there enough info where I'm gonna have to make a video about what you saw about Sea of Thieves and talk about
it? Probably. Dude, I'm gonna be posting like 4 or 5 articles all at once. So like, there's gonna be separate interviews, different kinds of this is how this works in Sea of Thieves, new features, and also just sort of an article pulling it all together, I guess. So there's probably going to be 4 or 5 articles from me, maybe more. I don't know. And I've also got 2 hours worth of 4K footage to make my own video.
Ooh, do you have it all written out already, or are you procrastinator like me?
I'm procrastinating.
Okay, of course you are.
Like I was sitting there last night thinking I need to write all this up, and I was drawing Microsoft Paint pictures on Twitter of Dino Crisis 4 Revengeance by Bethesda. So that's what I was doing instead of working.
Right. Hey, we have 278 people watching, but only 68 likes. What's up with that? What's up with the disparity? Hit that like button. Help us out if you're enjoying the show. As me and Jez try to make it as entertaining as possible. I mean, where else are you going to get a 60 frames versus 30 frames, and 30 frames is way better kind of discussion? Only right here. And, anyways.
I just prefer it. I just prefer the pixels. The jaggies. They're ugly.
I thought you had a crap 4K TV anyways.
I do, but I still hate jaggies. Like right now.
I don't know there's any jaggies in Shadow of the Colossus. Come on now.
Well, play The Witcher 3 on performance mode and just stare at the jaggies, man. There's jaggies everywhere.
Okay.
Jaggies City. Like I'm playing, my capture card's plugged in right now, so I can't even hit 4K on The Witcher, and it's just jaggies everywhere.
Have
That
fun
could
at
be
class, Cypress Smurf. Thanks for hanging out. Got
pleasure.
class now. Got class in a couple hours. But Red Dead Redemption 2, Jazz. Now, before we get into the Xbox stuff, which will probably be the final topic or close to it, they've got a release date. It's October 26th, right? There was the leaked memo where supposedly not only you can play campaign and the multiplayer, you can play them in third person and first person, which I guess makes sense considering Grand Theft Auto 5. They eventually added the ability to play in first person. A whole bunch of different blowouts about what you'll be doing it. But the big thing was that supposedly Red Dead 2 is going to have a PUBG mode, Battle Royale mode.
That's the day PUBG dies.
And I made the video like, does this mean bad news for Fortnite and PUBG? And it's just like,
oh yes,
we knew this
they
day was coming. We
if
knew
they
this day
get
was
it
coming.
right, they get it right. I won't touch PUBG ever again. I can say that right now.
We knew this day was coming. The AAA developers, the AAA publishers want in on the money that PUBG and Fortnite are making, and it was only a matter of time. I mean, we even got rumors that the next Battlefield has a PUBG or Battle Royale mode in it. Now Rockstar, even though they had like a vehicle one in Grand Theft Auto Online, but maybe this one launches day one. I mean, like I gotta wonder, like how long before people are just sick of Battle Royale, considering like every single game is gonna have some sort of mode of it at some point,
Yeah, I mean, it's probably just gonna evaporate as a genre and just become a sort of mode for other games, But the thing is, I mean, PUBG will still be fine because its name's out there. It's got a huge PC community. I mean, even if the Xbox version dies off or whatever, they've got a huge PC community that's just not going to go away overnight. It's going to be like CS:GO. I think it's just going to stick around. I don't know, maybe not forever, but it's going to stick around for a long time. And but I think it could impact PUBG on consoles, especially if they get it right. Well, obviously on consoles, because I don't think Red Dead Redemption 2 is not even coming to PC, is it? I don't think it is. It's not confirmed for PC.
No, they haven't confirmed it yet. Well, Take
See, that's so
Two,
strange.
Take Two, just had their shareholders meeting. Let's see. Grand Theft Auto Online was the single larger driver of recurrent consumer spending during the past quarter. Grand Theft Auto Online will have more content updates, and Grand Theft Auto 5 is now sold over 90 million units worldwide.
Oh my god. 90 million?
90 million.
Oh my god. That's crazy. Dude, I can't stand GTA Online. I think it's really boring. Is that just me? Have you tried it?
I have not played GTA Online since it was out on the 360.
Can anyone in chat explain what's so fun about it? It just seems like you drive around doing nothing.
Dude, everybody on Xbox and PlayStation, like, what is it? 1 in 3 must have Grand Theft Auto 5, basically. At this point,
do you want to know what's really terrible? I bought Grand Theft Auto 5 for Xbox One and haven't even played it. I just bought it on a sale or impulse buy sometime.
Not only that, but also NBA 2K18, they announced that it sold 8 million units, which is up a quarter, 25% from last year's game in the same time period, and it's on track to become Take-Two's most successful sports game ever. And that's considering the fact that it had all those nasty microtransactions that everybody complained about.
I didn't even hear about that. What were the microtransactions like in that game?
Like, they were like really bad in the My Career mode and stuff. But I mean, hey, they seem to be doing pretty well. NBA 2K. I mean,
it's like FIFA Ultimate Team, isn't it? That's basically pay to win, if I understand it right. So I don't know much about sports games because I've never played them. I've got no interest in sports. The last sports game, vaguely sports game-esque game I played was NWO Revenge on the Nintendo 64. So that was a long time ago. But I don't really play sports games.
And Z Huge is saying that if you take Grand Theft Auto, it must have sold 15 million units this year, which means it outsold most games launched in 2017, like Battlefield 2, which only sold 7 million. And this is a game that launched in 2013.
How many did Battlefield? You mean Battlefield 1?
Battlefield 2 sold 7 million units this year.
You mean Bad Company? No, I
No,
mean Battlefront.
Battlefront 2.
Battlefront.
Battlefront 2. Star
Battlefront 2.
Wars sold
Yeah.
7 million copies.
You said Battlefield 2.
I meant Battlefront 2. So Battlefront 2 sold 7 million copies, and Grand Theft Auto 5 sold 15 million.
Right.
Grand Theft Auto 5, well, Jesus. Yeah.
Why won't it go away? What's the deal? I don't get it.
I don't know. It's like you buy a system, you want to get, maybe an exclusive and maybe a game I mean, what's the like everybody knows Grand Theft Auto, like
And is it like it's just the game that normies buy, maybe?
yeah,
And,
normies.
and like gangster people.
Yeah. But anyways, back to Red Dead. I mean, there's the PUBG mode. Like who knows how they'll do it. I'm sure a bunch of other companies will do it as well, but the bigger thing to me isn't necessarily about the mode itself, it's the release date. October 26th. This is going to be one of the biggest releases of the year, clearly.
Yes.
Do you think a lot of publishers and devs are out there looking and be like, we maybe need to delay our game, we need to move our game forward, because launching the week of is clearly a no-go. Launching a week after, unless your Call of Duty, is a no-go, right? I mean, you pretty much have to launch if you want a game. If you're planning on releasing a game in October, you best release it like beginning of October to give you enough space away from the 26th, right?
It's a tough one. I was talking to people at Xbox about this, and they were happy because of Sea of Thieves factor. And also, I was discussing because if you remember, so Red Dead Redemption is blamed for the failure of a big 360 exclusive back in the day. If you remember,
that would be Alan Wake.
Indeed, you do.
Which I don't understand why Microsoft didn't move that. Like I know Alan Wake announced their release date first, and then Red Dead and Rockstar announced it, and then
you can't do it, man, because it looks like a sign of weakness. Like
it doesn't matter. Do you want to? I would have rather appear weak and actually sell a bunch of copies of my game than compete with the Juggernaut. I don't know.
When has that ever happened? That a game has been delayed specifically because of another game being delayed?
That also very well also looked like Rockstar was being petty, because they like Rockstar and Remedy have their history together. You know that, right?
Do they? Oh yeah, because of Max Payne.
Yeah. So like Rockstar used to publish Max Payne, or Remedy was doing it, and then right, that's how it went. Like Remedy did Max Payne, Rockstar published it.
Is that true?
Yeah, because Rockstar owns the IP, and like I want to say there was some bad blood between both companies, and then they were doing Alan Wake, and it just so happens Red Dead Redemption coming out the same day. I remember reading stuff about that, like how there was bad blood between the companies.
That's interesting. I'm gonna investigate that.
So I'm pretty sure Max Payne was published by Rockstar. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's how it went, because that's how Rockstar retained the rights. That's how Rockstar was able to do Max Payne 3 without Remedy at all, is because they own the IP. But either way, like I'm looking at like this, like, well, if you're Microsoft and you're planning on stealth launching Halo 6 this year, well, not stealth launching, but like having it come out this year, well, then October is a no-go, like, because like October 26th, the week after, is like the first week of November. That's usually when Call of Duty launches, which supposedly is Black Ops 4. So like, if you're going to launch Halo 6 this year, you're probably looking at September, which means no Destiny, right? There's going to be no Destiny game, although they might have an expansion. Maybe early October. Obviously, Sony, I mean, you're not going to want to watch Spider-Man at any point this year. You're not going to want to watch Days Gone at any point in October. If you're another publisher, like maybe Warner Brothers, there's rumors of a new Batman game or Justice League. I'm assuming you'd want to steer clear of that date as well. I mean,
yeah, it's the game that publishers want to avoid this year, I think. But what can you do? You can't just have no games launched. They've got they're going to sell some copies, but it's kind of like, what do? You can't just delay all your games.
Yeah,
I don't know.
No, I mean that's always interesting decision, like how much. Because remember when that happened with Tomb Raider, right? Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider. Microsoft had that exclusive deal, It was supposed to help out for the whole year. Great game, right? But then like they released it the same day as Fallout 4. And we were all sitting there wondering, like, you had the exclusive marketing deal with Fallout, you have this exclusive game with Tomb Raider. Why the hell are you releasing both of them the same day? I mean, Bethesda can do whatever they want. Like, Bethesda released Fallout 4 whenever they want. Clearly, it was very successful in that release date. But why not move Tomb Raider to a different day? I'm not like a week later, a week before, like early January or February, where games do pretty well. And I remember Aaron Greenberg was doing the rounds talking about that stuff, and he was like kind of funny. And they said, well, there's money loss. Like, what do you go up against? It was either against that game or against Star Wars Battlefront Run and a whole other stuff. But I mean, I get what you're saying. Like, you announce your release date, someone else announces their release date, and you change it. It looks like you're running, but sometimes I would imagine you have to do that. I don't.
The thing is, it just creates a kettle of, it just creates a mess. I mean, imagine if you delay your game and then another heavy hitter gets delayed, and you've got to delay it again. It creates consumer confusion. If you've committed to a launch date, you have to stick to it. And even still, it's like Aaron. I mean, I agree with Aaron Greenberg there when he says, when do you launch? There's always, you can always talk about pros and cons. Like the market is kind of anemic in January. People spend money before Christmas and not so much after it for a little while. Everyone's skint. They've run out of money.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, okay, kids might have a little bit of spending money, but it's not really the kids that drive the market. So January's sometimes it's great in some respects, I guess, because you've got Monster Hunter and Resident Evil 7 launched without any sort of real competition, but at the same time, maybe Monster Hunter would have done better if it sold and dropped in December or November, because that's when people were buying gifts. So what do you do? It's not an exact science, really.
No, I mean, nothing is, but at least people know now that Rockstar's, they can plan, because not many games are announced for fall yet. I think this is the first one. Like, Rockstar clearly is the gorilla here, and they're like, we're planting our flag. October 26th is our day, and you best figure out. I mean, they could announce the release date a month beforehand, and it would have been done fine, but like everybody else is now scrambling. Like maybe some other publisher had the 26 marked out, like Assassin's Creed. Usually, isn't that when like the new Assassin's Creed launches? Now, like Ubisoft's like, well, we're really going to launch the next Assassin's Creed up against Rockstar's game. So now they're going to have to move, and if they move to a different date, then someone else's game might be affected. So it kind of starts this whole like domino chain of effects.
Yeah, it's a mess. You can't just. You can't just do that. I don't know, man. I don't know, but I do know that no matter what no matter when Red Dead is going to release, it's going to create a vacuum effect. Everyone's going to be playing that game. People who claim to hate Red Dead are going to be playing that game. Everyone's going to be playing that game. I'm going to be playing that game. You're going to be playing that game. Can't escape it.
So not only is it going to affect that week, it'll affect the week after, because people are going to be playing that long single player, and then it's going to have the multiplayer component, like Grand Theft Auto Online. Maybe
if the multiplayer is genuinely good, and honestly, I never really found the GTA shooting mechanics to really be suited to multiplayer, which is completely a dumb thing to say because clearly everyone loves GTA Online, but I just don't really like the shooting mechanics for multiplayer. It feels like sticky and weird to me. I don't know. Maybe they've been improved, but if Red Dead feels like a true shooter, a third-person shooter, then it could be big, man.
Right.
For multiplayer too.
Well, what's
with the core audience.
What's not going to be big?
What?
Dead Rising 5.
I
figure we segue. I know. We'll figure we segue into that. So, Capcom, they had to let go of some of their staff at Capcom Vancouver. Over 50 people. I think I read like a third of their studio. Dead Rising 5, or the next Dead Rising, was over budgeted or over scope and understaffed, and they had to drastically cut the scope of the game. They also had to cancel the unannounced new IP that they were supposedly working on that was never greenlit. Now, there are some people saying that the game that was canceled was an Xbox exclusive called Knights of Aegeus. I still don't think I don't think number one that game even really existed because people have been talking about that game for 2 years now,
Yeah, I
and
remember that.
and like it never showed up anywhere, and like I don't know how like hey we had 2 years ago Knights of Aegeus, and yet the game was never greenlit. But either way, um, the Capcom stuff, Dead Rising 5. Clearly, Dead Rising 4 didn't set the world on fire, sales wise,
Nope.
which is
I thought it
why.
really, really boring, personally. I mean, I think I played it like multiplayer once and just was like, yeah, I'm done with this, and just that was it. I just really, I never really liked any of them, to be honest. I mean, I kind of like appreciated what they were trying to do and stuff like that, but I think that kind of missed the cool parts of zombie games, like the survival aspects and stuff like that. At least for me, I mean, that's what's cool for me: survivalism and the whole zombie apocalypse fantasy, which I felt was completely lost on Dead Rising. There was no, you didn't have to survive in that game. You just sort of you had these crazy weapons and just one-ton destruction, and it was really easy, which is fine for a while, but it gets boring. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's always sad when people lose their jobs.
Oh
Like
yeah,
that always sucks. And I'm not the biggest fan of Dead Rising either. I think the series has run its course. I know Microsoft liked to align themselves with that game. And I did see Ryan McCaffrey say something, so I'm going to ask you. He theorized that with this report coming out, and since they had to have known how bad Dead Rising was doing since it came out last holiday, not this last holiday in 2017, but 2016, they had to have known uh, that the game wasn't performing very well. Now they finally get rid of it or cut down the scope. What if he theorized that? What if Microsoft pulled out from funding that game and said, you know what, maybe our money is best spent elsewhere. It didn't really help us out. We're not going to fund Dead Rising 5. And because of that,
oh
Capcom, who always seems to like to partner with a console manufacturer, were like, well, we have to cut staff, and now we got to cut scope on Dead Rising 5.
I think that's probably it. Microsoft probably. I mean, do you reckon that Dead Rising deal was in place before Phil Spencer's time? Maybe
I mean, they
because
obviously
that
had
would have been
it. They
Dead
obviously
Rising
had it in
3.
there with 3. Probably had to have been renewed for the 4th one, right?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Maybe they were contracted for 2 games. I don't know.
Either
Either
way,
way, it's a shame.
either way. Hope everybody. I did see the coalition was reaching out and saying if you apply there or whatever for the people affected by the layoffs. But this happens in the video game industry. People get laid off all the time. Studios are in flux. But
I wonder what
anyways,
the coalition's working on that they're hiring. I
Gears of War
mean, well,
5.
obviously Gears of War, but maybe they. I mean, weren't they helping on PUBG as well?
Supposedly they had a little bit of help. I mean, I doubt the whole studio was on it. I mean, there's that rumor that they were helping with Perfect Dark. I mean, I don't know. Then there was the thing about them working on a new IP with Microsoft shut down the day after. Um,
Hmm.
but I mean, if Halo's not this year, Halo's 2019, which means Gears 5 is 2020, right? More than likely. So I don't know. They turned around pretty fast on Gears of War 4 from when they announced the game. When they announced how they bought it, they changed the studio's name, and they turned Gears of War 4 around pretty fast.
They did.
So maybe they can do the same. I don't know. Who knows?
Well,
Maybe
let's
we'll
just
get.
talk about Gears for a sec.
What about Gears?
Like, I mean, this is going off on a tangent slightly, but I mean, well, this kind of plays into like what Microsoft needs to do in 2018 and beyond. So, I mean, you mentioned that Gears of War turned around pretty quick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you? I don't feel that it was rushed, but it didn't exactly have any new ideas. I don't think.
Well, I
Which is
remember, yeah, it played it too safe, which is a criticism a lot of people had with the game. But Rod said they wanted to make sure, improve the fans, they could do it the old fashioned way before they changed things up, right? Which they had all these different plans, but they felt that they wanted to stick true to the Gears formula for 4. and then they can maybe do different things for 5.
Yeah. Well, I don't. I think they have to, because I don't think Gears. I don't think Gears 5 can work as a just straight corridor shooter. I think it needs to do something else. I think it needs to evolve, like we're seeing Assassin's Creed evolve with Assassin's Creed Origins. I think it needs to evolve, because it's kind of one of those, like, it's like Assassin's Creed in a way. It was one of those big franchises that was big back in the day on the 360 and well, not the PS3, but you know, Assassin's Creed on the PS3 obviously. But it was one of those games that was big back in the day, and you know, it worked back in those days before we had all this innovation and stuff like that. Now I kind of feel like it needs to do something really new. It needs almost like a change in direction. I don't think, like, I'm not saying it needs to become an RPG, but I do think it needs to do something more interesting than what it has been doing in recent years.
So you think it needs to? I mean, what exactly would you want Gears of War to be?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think, like,
I mean, clear. Do you want Gears of War to be an open world game? You want
now
Gears of War to be an RPG?
I think Gears of War becoming an open world would be maybe too big of a departure. But I think it needs to at least step in that direction, maybe. You know, instead of these linear corridors and stuff like that, at least the multiplayer as well. Like, Horde mode was nowhere near as ambitious as it could have been. And we've got really complex survival games now. And you know, Gears of War basic and Gears of War Horde, it was fun, really fun. I played a lot of it, but it was like, you know, it pales in. I mean, it's ironic almost, because Fortnite, before it became a battle royale clone, it had this really cool horde mode system where, and it wasn't very well fleshed out, but you know, you could basically construct your own bases and stuff like that, and set up these huge traps and stuff, and then these streams of monsters would come into your traps, and it was like, had way more tower defense elements than Gears of War horde mode ever did. So I kind of want it to. I just want it to go balls to the wall a bit. I want it to be something more. I don't know. I don't know
Yeah,
exactly what. I haven't thought it through that much.
I mean, like people always say they need to do something different. They need to do something different, but I never hear like what they want them to do. It's always like it needs to be like this one was too safe. I thought the problem with this one was like the first act was horrible. Like fighting the robots, like
Yeah,
was
the
just
robots
god
was awful.
awful.
I
And
hated that.
like the game got much better once you moved away from there, and they added more set piece moments like the motorcycle chase, or like when you ride up the cable car, like you know when you cut it off and you're trying to escape. They did some of that stuff, but like I'm not sure exactly what you can do with Gears. I mean, you have like limited movement, you know, so like an open world game. I mean, I could see it being open world, but you need like vehicles and stuff to get around. I think Gears is always going to be pigeonholed, or at least the main series, unless they do a spinoff, as a linear corridor shooter with a horde mode for multiplayer and then actual multiplayer, you know, along with that. I think that's just what Gears is going to be, because if you try to do something different, I think the fans of the franchise would hate it. Now that's not saying like you couldn't do a Gears of War open world game that's built from the ground up as an open world game and not call it Gears of War 5. You know, you could do something different. But I think like numbered gears will always remain true to that formula.
Well, that's the thing. It's like there are things that I could think of, the way directions I'd like it to take. Like, I'd like it to maybe go like wide linear, kind of like Mass Effect 2 was, which Mass Effect 2 was by no means an open world game, but there was lots of exploration. There were multiple paths through a lot of the levels, and also there were different outcomes based on, you know, your choices and stuff like that, and also RPG mechanics. Now, I'm not saying Gears of War needs to become an RPG, but it'd be nice if it, you know, just had more mechanics to it. I guess it's too, the way it is right now is just too basic, you know, for me. Like, even if it was more like Dead Space, you know, with like like weapon crafting, or, you know, scavenging to some degree and stuff like that, you go from set piece to set piece to set piece, and it's just, if that's what Gears of War 5 is like, it's gonna be really boring for me, I think.
Well, OBJ, shout out to OBJ. He says that we won't know what we like until we try it. They just have to do it right. I
Yeah,
mean, like,
exactly. That's a good point
you
too.
know, so they're the game. That's the thing. Like, they're the game developers, right? I remember having this conversation with my buddies after Titanfall 1 came out. And I'm like, dude, this is Respawn. Like, this are the developers who made the Modern Warfare games, made Call of Duty what it was. Like, they specialize not only in multiplayer, but in fantastic single player campaigns. And I felt it was a detriment to Titanfall. I mean, I understood why, the reasons behind, they just didn't have the time. I'm like, I'm really looking forward to Titanfall 2 for the single player campaign. And like, all my friends were just like, I don't see how they can incorporate that with the Titan. How does the game have to be open world? I'm like, listen, like, they're the game developers. They have all the ideas. They can put it together. They can make a great campaign. I have faith that the people who made Call of Duty can make a kick-ass uh, single player, campaign for Titanfall 2. And sure enough, my faith was rewarded. Titanfall 2's campaign was one of the best campaigns in 2016. It was freaking amazing. But it was always funny to hear my friends. It's like, I don't know how that could be done. Would it have to be open world? Could you have to use your Titan all the time? I'm like, it doesn't really matter. Like, they're the game designers. They'll figure it out. Like, which is what you're saying, like, with Gears. Like, we're saying it needs to change, or at least you're saying it needs to change, but you don't know how you want it to change. And they're listening to the feedback. They're the developers. They know what can and
I
can't
know
work for
I
that
know.
engine. And it's like, if they do something, they'll figure it out. They'll be the ones to change it. And,
I personally know how I'd want it to change, but I don't think the fans like it. That's the problem. I mean, it's a post-apocalyptic world, but you never get a sense of that. There's no sense of desperation in the game. It's just kind of like you're a super badass hero, and the rest of the world is just sort of there. It's. I should write something on this and think about it.
You should. We should also talk about, since what Xbox needs to do for 2018 and 2019. Kind of go off your article, mainly because we didn't really have much, news to talk about today. So, we're Xbox fans. We want to see Xbox do well. What do you think Xbox needs to do? I mean, E3 registrations just opened up. I'm assuming you're in, right? I'm assuming you put in your E3 registration, you signed up and all that stuff.
I registered for E3. Don't 100% know if I'm going to go. I mean, it depends. It always depends on the company. I can't afford the plane ticket. I think it's like over £1,000.
And then Microsoft will throw the red roses at you. They'll roll out the red carpet.
For the record, Microsoft have never paid for me to go to E3. Never.
For the record. Yeah, Windows Central will. But anyways.
Windows Central will. Oh, yeah, Windows Central.
What do they need to... I know this is a meme, but like the whole wait to E3, it's been a meme for years now. But I do feel that this year's E3 is a little more critical than years previous, mainly because by that time, most of the games that we know about that are coming out in the immediate future will be out. Sea of Thieves is out March 20th. I think State of Decay 2 is coming pretty soon after that, or Crackdown 3, one of those two. So I would imagine 2 of those games are out before E3, and maybe Crackdown comes out a little bit after E3. You can kind of mix and match those. But after that, it's like, we don't know, besides Ori, which when people say Ori's 2018, it always gets me. Like, Ori's not 2018. I don't know where this came from. Ori is a 2019 game at the earliest. Like, people are like, oh, Ori is this year. No, it's not. It ain't coming out this year, folks. Microsoft never talks about Ori when they talk about 2018. The trailer didn't have a release date. It's 2019 at the earliest, probably March 2019, like as the anniversary of the release date.
Yeah,
but sure. I feel like this one is more important because Microsoft has to set the game plan of everything going forward, not only with what exclusives will be coming out at the end of the year, but what do they have for 2019 and beyond, plus the value they're bringing to Game Pass and things like that. So you start off, Jez, and then we'll kind of bounce it off back and forth with each other. What does Xbox need to do?
Well, we talk about this a lot on the show, and everyone else does as well. But it's the games, man. I mean, last year, sorry. The narrative their narrative was dominated by the Xbox One X, 4K, stuff like that. They don't have that this year. This year, it's going to be all about games, and Microsoft have got a big target on them, which basically says, you guys aren't delivering the games. You're not delivering the exciting AAA style experiences that Sony's delivering for its fans. Sony are brilliant at fan service. They're brilliant at giving fans what they want and what they ask for, and they know their audience very, very well, and they cater to that audience. And by doing that, they create value for the PlayStation ecosystem in a way that Xbox has struggled with so far, in my opinion. And I think, even though personally I'm happy with the library on Xbox, but it's mostly third party stuff. I can't physically play more games. The amount of third party stuff on Xbox, I'm really happy with. However, for those people who are deciding between the two ecosystems, especially as we move towards a world where subscription services become the norm and we move towards game streaming and stuff like that, people are going to be getting locked into ecosystems. Now, if you ignore the hardware and look at the ecosystems, in terms of games, overall, I would say Sony pretty much crushes Xbox into dust, personally. I find the PlayStation ecosystem in terms of IP to be far more attractive and diverse, especially the whole Japanese side of things. Now, you could argue that the Japanese games aren't as big of a deal in Microsoft's core markets, the Anglo-centric US and UK markets. But at the same time, you kind of want to choose the ecosystem which has more because you don't want to miss out on things. So I think Microsoft needs to show that it can make quality, photorealistic AAA action games that people want to play, that are high quality and deliver on their promises, and can make an impact, stuff like that. I mean, Rise was okay. I liked Quantum Break, but it's not really a game that made a huge impact on the market. And a lot of their big games have either been sort of Forza shaped, or they have been indie games like Cuphead. So, and they can't just keep relying on Gears and Halo forever. So, yeah, I want to see Xbox deliver some ambition, something that shows they're capable of making those premium experiences. And also, frankly, try and get some of these Japanese developers on board. I'd love to see Nier Automata announced for Xbox One. It's really strange that it just never hit Xbox One for some reason. And I can't help but feel like it's bad blood there for some reason, because that's not an exclusivity deal on PlayStation. Platinum just never bought it to Xbox. They didn't feel it was worth it, or they just straight up didn't want to.
Well, wouldn't that have been more of a Square Enix decision?
Well, I don't know.
Well, Square Enix published Near Automata. I would assume it's their decision on what system,
It
platforms it
depends.
goes to.
It depends whether they own the code and stuff like that. Maybe they can get another studio to port Near Automata, but would you want that, or would you want Platinum doing it? I don't know. But it's either way, it's really strange. Exactly, and people are saying in chat, dude, if you want JRPG, play PlayStation. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about what Xbox needs to do. And I think, like, for people who do want to play JRPGs, you have to choose PlayStation. There is no choice. Now, I think Microsoft needs to do a lot of work there, and also on the platform side of things. I mean, a lot of people watching this won't care, but the Xbox apps are really bad. They're really slow. The Xbox Club system is being destroyed by Discord, and like Xbox Clubs. Why do they exist? They are so slow and painful to use. I can't stand them. Like if I'm a streamer or a YouTuber and I want to create a community for my audience, there ain't no way I'm going to use an Xbox Club because they're so fucking slow. I'm going to use Discord, which is fast. So I'd like to see improvements to the Xbox community side of things, and I don't know, some more innovation. Services, innovation, and games. That's what I want to see.
But for
And
you, the number one big thing is games, though.
yeah, it's quality games and diversity of games. I think that's what they need to do. So that's what I think. What do
What
you
was the
think?
last thing? Because I think before I said that, you had something else that was on your
Well,
list.
I was gonna say, I mean, this is another thing that most people won't care about, but when Microsoft sold the Xbox One back in 2013, they sold it with a big entertainment vision, and they've still been doing that now. They've been saying the Xbox One, the first Xbox One S, first console that can play Netflix in 4K, blah blah blah, 4K this, 4K that. iTunes has 300 4K videos to buy. Xbox Store has like 10 or something. It's pathetic. It's a really pathetic offering. So I'd like to see more effort put into the entertainment side of things as well. And also, like, the whole thing with Connect being killed off. We don't have any way to use voice commands anymore if you don't have a Connect. So I'd also like to see some kind of band-aid for that, at some point. But there's a lot of little things really. I don't know. What do you think, man? What are your big criticisms for Xbox, and what do they need to show? What do they need to show at 2018 for the fans of Xbox and for people who still haven't bought an Xbox?
I've said this multiple times. I feel the hardware is at a great place with the X. Yeah, the S, is it's always going to be the lesser of the X and the family, but as well as the PlayStation. But I feel like the hardware is fixed. I think it points to a good direction they'll go with maybe the next system. I feel like Xbox Live and the services they have on the whole thing is great. Digital refunds, digital game share, like digital gift giving and stuff like that. Like the services on the box and the box itself are all absolutely fantastic and come a long way since 2013 and that monstrosity of Xbox and like how Xbox Live used to be. I'm recalling party chat where you actually like could only have as many people in the party as people that were playing the game. It was just such like a differentiation from how it used to be, right? So I think they're on the right path with the hardware and the services. But like for me and for you and for a lot of people, I feel they need to they need it needs to be put up or shut up time. Phil's talked about how he wants to invest in first party and all this stuff. He said that for years. But you can only say that for so long until people just be like, are you just saying that to keep people honest? And like to keep people interested. And I know Phil, and Phil's an honest guy. I'm not gonna lie. But like you still need to prove it to people. And considering this year all the games that Xbox have will be out, they need to come out at E3 with a fantastic showing. And even though I enjoyed last year's E3, a lot of stuff was like exclusive indie games. Indie games are great. I cover them a lot on my channel, but that's not what's going to resonate with people watching E3 and people covering E3. They don't want to see something like The Last Night. Even though that game looks great and will probably be awesome when it comes out, people want to see first-party games. People want to see Microsoft investing in their portfolio like Phil said they would. People want to see studio announcements. So for me, not only do they have to announce their 2018 end of lineup, which is Forza Horizon 4, whatever, but they got to completely show 2019, and then they got to show something for 2020. That's just obviously for my like what I would like to see, because everything else to me, from the controllers to the digital experience to the hardware, is A plus, exactly where it needs to be, right? But the exclusive content in comparison to not only the PlayStation, but to the Switch, because now the Switch is also part of that kind of conversation. It just doesn't really compare. And even though Sea of Thieves seems like it's going to be a hit, and maybe it's the hit Microsoft does need right now, I've talked about it until I get to play it. I'm not sure it's the game for me, but then again, I thought PUBG wasn't the game for me. So I'm going to wait until I actually play it. Now, State of Decay 2, a lot of people are interested in that game, but we've talked about these games for years now. Hell, we've talked about Sea of Thieves for 3 years now? 2 years? 3 years, right? Crackdown has been talked about for 4 years. Like, I want to see what 2019 holds for Xbox. I want to see what 343 is going to do to return Halo to the glory it once had.
Mm.
I want to see what Coalition has up their sleeves. I want to see what Playground potentially is doing with Fable. I want to see a new IP that isn't one of the big franchises for Microsoft, to show Phil's commitment that he isn't just, blowing smoke off people's asses. Like, I know he's not, but like, he's still got to show that to people. So a new IP, updates to what's going on with their major franchises, all that stuff is something they need to do. Otherwise, you're still going to hear the same. Xbox has no games. Xbox has no exclusives. It's got great hardware, great services, but there's nothing to play on it, which I hear constantly on my channel all the time. So to me, that's what needs to happen. They need to show that they can compete not only with Nintendo on the first party front, but with Sony. I'm not even asking for them to put out something like God of War and Detroit and Ghost of Tsushima in 1 year. Death Stranding. Like, I just need to see the commitment, because you know how secretive they are about stuff. And we know they're working on games. We know they're signing things.
Yes,
but people need, and that's the difference here. The difference of strategy between Microsoft and Sony. Sony's literally like, here's our road plan for the next 4 years. All these games, right? God of War, Death Stranding, Last of Us 2, Ghost of Tsushima, like everything that's coming out. And you can get, if one of those games isn't your thing, that's perfectly fine, because another one of those games could be your thing, and that's the thing you're looking forward to, right?
and that's another thing with PlayStation. You know those games are going to come out because very rarely do they seem to cancel games.
Yeah, and with Xbox, it's like, what if you're not really interested in Sea of Thieves or State of Decay or Crackdown? Like, what do you have to look forward to outside of multiplats? Which, yes, they're all going to be on the system, and that is true. So, I mean, but what is the exclusive game that you're holding on to? Like, and I'm such a Halo fan that I want to know about Halo 6. I want to know what the extra, because I don't think Halo's coming out this year. I don't think you don't think Halo's coming out this year, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah. What is the extra year of developmental time going to do for Halo? How are they going to update it for because a lot of things have happened since Halo 5 has come out. Battle Royale exploded. Hero shooters have come out and dominated, like Rainbow Six Siege, Overwatch. A lot of these games as a service games are just dominating the field. Like, how is Halo 6 going to change the game? What are they going to do? What are they going to bring to the table in the multiplayer aspect? But then again, you can't short skirt the single player aspect. Master Chief has to be front and center, right? Like, it has to be a great story of Master Chief with the great campaign, co-op, and all that stuff. That's what I'm interested in finding out about. Yeah. But it ain't coming this year, unfortunately. At least I don't think so. I would be shocked if Microsoft announced that at E3 and said it's coming out in 6 months or 5 months or whatever.
Would be... I never want to say this is definitely not going to happen, because it's Microsoft. Anything can happen with Microsoft, But I'm like you, man. I don't think Halo's this year. Definitely not. Definitely.
Yeah. What is Microsoft's plans for Game Pass? Are they just going to be, hey, it's just old games that aren't selling anymore, plus our first party games? Like, what's their vision for that going forward? Are there going to be more newer games launching in there? Like, can I expect a new indie game or a new episodic game to launch within Game Pass? Are there going to be any third party games to go in there? Because that's going to be a big talking point of this E3 is Game Pass and Microsoft's first party, because now their first party basically is an advertisement for Game Pass.
Yeah.
Right?
And I'm also wondering what their PC play is going to be, because a lot of these games are XPAs too, right? So like the Game Pass technically is a PC thing too. So someone who buys Xbox Game Pass get all those XPA games as well, Xbox Play Anywhere. So I wonder if they're going to try and reach out to PC gamers as well this year, because PC gamers hate Microsoft. They hate them so much. It's like, if you look at the trailer for Age of Empires Definitive Edition, the comments are just filled with hate for Microsoft not putting it on Steam. They hate Microsoft. And it's like, does Microsoft even care about this? Do they think they can fix it? How are they going to fix it? I'm not a big PC gamer myself, but I'd be interested to see what they do there as well. I don't know. It's complicated. Microsoft are in a weird position right now, because the market's changing so fast in every space. The market is changing so fast, and historically, Microsoft has always been this huge lumbering beast that can't respond to change. They lost the mobile market because they were too slow. They had they brought out Cortana before Amazon bought out the Echo, and now Amazon's completely beat them to the smart assistant market and home speakers and stuff like that. They're just so damn slow. And now we've got Google hiring Phil Harrison. So like maybe Google are gonna be entering with a big get video game play soon. And obviously the future of computing for Google is their Android platform with Google Play. Like Chromebooks are actually making a dent in Windows. Chromebooks now run Android apps, and you know, it's not a stretch to think that one day Chromebooks could actually be a viable alternative to PC gaming. I mean, Tencent are doing esports for Android games now. There's that whole thing to consider as well. And I know Microsoft is aware of the whole Android aspect of this and the mobile thing, and you've got Nintendo doing their mobile thing, and it's like how does Microsoft fit into all of this? What do they do? Do they just keep going on doing the same thing they've been doing all these years? You sort of chasing the model that PlayStation created, or do they pivot? Do they try something new, or do they just continue being really slow? Because it's painful. It's painful, man. Watching Microsoft have all these great technologies and these insanely smart people who work for them, and like the engineers who work on Surface, and they created like smallest Xbox ever that's also the most powerful and still really quiet and runs cool. Like it's an engineering marvel that console is as cheap as it is. Yet they're getting screwed in every direction except for cloud. Cloud is like the only thing they're doing well in right now.
Yeah.
So it's annoying. It is frustrating watching Microsoft be so slow.
And look,
sometimes.
I enjoy my Xbox. I love it. Like I love the Xbox One X. I think it's a great system. I have as many games on it as I possibly can ever play. That's where I play everything. That's where all my friends are. We have a great time playing PUBG, even though it's not like the greatestly put together game. It has frame rate issues. It has janky controls. It's still what I say?
Greatestly.
Sometimes when I read chat, I screw
It's
up.
like
The greatest, the bigly is the bigly, you know.
bigly.
Um, but it's my system of choice. You know, I have the PlayStation there for the exclusives that I want to play, and I'm going to be getting a Switch soon to play some of the game. Like, because people tell me all the time, you need to play this, you need to play this. I'm one person. Like, I don't have a lot of time. Like between school and work and all this other stuff, doing YouTube, playing my games. There's not enough time. I'm just a single guy. I'm not like a YouTube channel that has 4 people working on it. I'm one dude. It's hard enough to play all the games I want on my Xbox, let alone all the games I want on PlayStation, let alone like now I have a PC and people are like, you need to play this game on PC. It's like, there's not enough time in the day. There just isn't. And like, this is all just like constructive criticism. Like I said, I think Xbox is doing great hardware services. Xbox Live, they've turned like from where it was to where it is now. I couldn't be happier with it. It just, I feel the games thing has been lacking, like, and it's been lacking for quite some time. And that's the one thing I need. I want them to turn it around because, um, it's annoying when you talk about Xbox or you talk positively about it, which I do all the time, and then somebody was like, Xbox has no games. Like, it's an annoying meme, and I get what it means, like, oh, it doesn't have exclusives or whatever, especially in comparison to some of the other systems, but like that's all Xbox really needs. That's all Phil needs to do to shut up everybody, is just put out quality exclusive games. I mean, I know it's not really going to be exclusive to Xbox, it'll be on PC as well, but that's what they need to do. And I think if you had to ask most people, that's what they would want. Like, they don't want 2017 again, where like your big release is Voodoo Vince Remastered and a free Phantom Dust OG remake or whatever remaster, right? Like, they don't want that stuff. They want new exciting experiences. They want updates to their favorite franchises, like
On Dino Crisis 4.
they want they want games spread out throughout the entire year. And maybe Maybe that's just not realistic. But maybe Game Pass can change all that. I mean, who knows? Like the Game Pass thing is potentially, we talked about it, could has a game changer. It could change the way Microsoft invests in games. Maybe they could invest more in games and have more games on offer. Maybe become such success where other games launch in it. I mean, there's the potential, and I use potential in quotes because it could go really well, or it could not go very well. It has always the potential to do something incredibly well. And also, like, another thing I want to mention is, like, since we have the X hardware, I would love for Microsoft's games to all have the option of playing it in 4K or playing it in 60 frames. Like if you want developers to do that for their fans, like you need to lead by example. You know, Gears of War 4 did it, but other games have to do it. You know, I would love for Sea of Thieves, even though I think Sea of Thieves art looks good and it's going to look great in 4K. I would love for Sea of Thieves to have a 60 frames mode. I know they won't, but I would love for it because if you're going to expect other developers to,
how do you know they won't?
I'm just saying, I would love if that game had a 60 frame mode. I'm on it. You know, if State of Decay 2 had a 60 frame mode, I'm playing it. Like I'll play it on that. I'm just saying, if you want other developers to take advantage of what the system offers, you got to lead by example. You got to show like, hey, we're doing this. Here's the data to back it up. Blah 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 blah. Maybe you can do it too. Like I love games that gives options. Like you can play this mode, this mode, and this mode. You know. But that's kind of what I feel they need to do, and it's like I know it's like the simplest thing, but apparently it's the hardest thing. I mean, making great games can be pretty difficult. You know? And look what happened with the Nintendo Switch this year. They put out 2 fantastic games and the fastest selling console like ever or whatever it is. Like was it 15 million in 9 months? Basically off the strength of Mario and Zelda? You know?
Crazy.
I mean, considering how poorly the Wii U did, I mean, it shows that there is a hunger for a game that you can't play anywhere else. A game that takes advantages of the specific hardware it's on. You know, God of War is going to look damn good and play damn good on the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 4 Pro. Look at what they were able to do with Shadow of Colossus. Like, the first party is there to push the hardware to the limits, to do things that only can be done by them on the system because they only got to focus on one thing. And then when you look at some of the other games, I'm not really sure they're doing it. I mean, Gears did it clearly, but some of the other ones I'm not necessarily sure. But I just want to see like a Halo 6 or a Gears 5 or a Fable or a new IP just squeeze as much power out of it. Rise 2? That's never going to happen. You know that as much as I do.
That's annoying. Actually, that's another thing I want to see them to commit to. I want to see them commit to one of their franchises that didn't do very well because of their decisions and make it better to show that they know what they're doing. Like, I want them to announce Recall 2 and it to look really good and deliver on the vision rather than it just be this sort of AA game that they're too embarrassed to even ship it at full price. You know? Even if you can call it a AA game. It was basically like an expensive indie. It's kind of... And I enjoyed Recall, but God, it did not live up to the expectations set by that initial trailer. It was just kind of like, oh, this looks really intriguing. You know, you've got the whole apocalyptic thing, and you've got the robots. It looks kind of cool, and dropping the names of these classic developers, and then what? It was a huge desert with not a great lot of stuff to do in it.
Recore would have been so much better if it was a linear game like held together by dungeons and stuff. The open world added nothing to that game whatsoever.
Yeah, maybe.
It added to the load times the game had, which was part of some of the bad reviews. I felt like that game would have been so much more like stronger if it was just like collection of dungeons with the challenges interspersed between. But hey, every game's got to be open world these days. I mean,
if it just like had like a vibrant overworld that had dungeons, like you know, I don't know.
Look, I want to reiterate again. I'm only speaking for myself because I got a couple tweets from people saying "speak for yourself," and I see people in chat saying that. This is all, and this is what this channel has always been, is
Speak for
my
yourself. What does that mean?
opinion. Like, apparently people are happy, some people are happy with the way Microsoft is, and if that's the way, or Xbox is, that's your position, then that's your position. Or anything about like that. Like, I'm just saying, like, this channel's always been my opinion. Now Jez can give his opinion on the show, but like, I'm only speaking for myself. I've never claimed to speak for anybody else. I never will claim to speak for anybody else. I'm just
My
speaking
opinion is
for.
paid for by Microsoft.
Yeah, well, I mean, they fly you out to E3 and give you chocolate roses. You know.
I am a shill for Microsoft. I saw it on NeoGAF. That's what.
So, is my opinion. If you disagree, that's great. We'll disagree on a whole bunch of stuff. But I don't. I only speak for myself. I don't claim to speak for anybody else. I'm not like the leader of the Xbox community. I'm just Randall Thor 19. Randall Soft Serve, Randall Pony, Randall Trader, Randall PS4, Randall Xbox, whatever, cute little name you can put at the end, that's what I am. But I just do me, man. I like making videos. I like talking about my thoughts on these things, and hopefully that's why you listen and enjoy it. But otherwise, I'm not saying everybody needs to think like me, right, Jez?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
That's
And
exactly it.
yeah,
Ravenflow, I think, actually does think I'm getting paid by Microsoft. I'm not, for God's sake.
the PS4 PSVR impressions videos will come when I finish Shadow Colossus and God of War, and I get some more time with some of the more VR games. But that will come. So I've enjoyed what I played of it. It's just there's so many, like I said, so many games, hardly any time. It's just like when I posted like today I'm going to beat God of War 3 and start Shadow of the Colossus, something came up and I wasn't able to play God of War 3 that day. So it's like, stuff happens, man. Like I'm knocking my way through Shadow of the Colossus and I'll do God of War, then PSVR, and then all these other games I get for reviews sometimes. It's tough, man. It's tough. Lot of not a lot of time. I got a class I got to go to in an hour, which I read all this stuff. Jez needs to write articles about, Sea of Thieves.
Yeah,
And
yeah, that's right.
yeah, don't procrastinate on that, man.
I'm currently drawing something for the Surface Twitter channel in Microsoft Paint.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So anyways, I think me and Jez gotta go out of here. I gotta go to class. If you want to comment on what you think Xbox needs to do, make sure you put in the comments, obviously when this video gets done processing, you can put it in the comments. If you enjoyed the podcast, if you want to show your support for your channel, all that good stuff, make sure you hit that like button, share it out on social media, sub to the channel if you're new, all that good stuff. Jez, you're on Twitter. Twitter links in the description.
Yes.
Anything you want to say before we get out of here?
Be nice to each other. And remember,
Very nice.
video games aren't that important.
No, but 60 frames is better than 30 frames.
Yeah, it is. It's
Exactly. You just agreed with me.
I'll choose 4K. God damn it.
Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the podcast and hope to see you next week for episode 41. And yeah, thanks for hanging out with us. And we'll see you next week. Have a good one. Later, guys.
Later.